I've spent years learning from, observing, and working with some of the biggest producers in the world, and over those years, I've noticed that there's a really common theme that I think always separates them from basically everybody else that's kind of running up to that point, and it's their ability to create randomness and let happy accidents happen in sessions and turn those into really, really special moments that really take something that feels like a cool beat or a cool instrumental into something that feels really creative, really unique, and something that you can't easily replicate. And it doesn't matter if you're watching, a live stream from Ian Kirkpatrick or Disclosure, or you're watching Mix with the Masters and you're watching somebody like Jack Antonoff break down a production for Lana Del Rey, or you're just watching a YouTube channel like me, or like Help Me Devon, or like Cam Becker, where we're a little bit smaller. We're not to that Grammy, multi-platinum award-winning status, but we're still doing these things that create randomness in our songs. There's a big difference between just downloading samples and downloading presets and, just kind of like laying out everything and doing a basic arrangement. That's great. It's great if you can do that, especially to write to. But something that'll separate that from a final record is just doing things that are completely weird, adding 4 instances of Portal on something and resampling that, or sending something through Grossbeat 3 different times, or, just playing random keys on loop mash while a synth goes. These are things that I can't always teach on YouTube because you kind of just have to do them while they happen in a session. So I guess in short, what I'm trying to say is don't be overly calculated when you're creating your instrumental or creating your production. I think it's important to be calculated when you're doing the arrangement, and things should be intentional in terms of, chord progression, rhythm, basic melody. But once you get that kind of skeleton, I think that's your job as a producer to kind of dive in and make it feel really, really, really exciting. So I'm going to show you a quick example of how I basically took a pretty bare bones instrumental and then added a couple different completely random effects, did a couple different, kind of creative sound design methods, and really transformed it into something that I think is a bit more exciting. So I'm going to let you listen to the basic beat that I created. It's just a couple different tracks. It's a kick, it's a snare, a hi-hat loop, a perk loop, and a couple different synths and bass tracks. It's nothing super, super exciting, but, I think it'll give you a good idea of what kind of a work in progress beat can sound like. So it's fine. I find it a little bit stale and a little bit boring. The synths aren't moving enough. Some of those melodies can feel a little bit cheesy because they're just kind of sitting right there on top. So let's go ahead and let's show you a couple things that you could do for a song like this to really take it over the next level. And a lot of this was just completely random. It's just things that happen with experimenting. So, you can make a little instrumental beat like that in 45 minutes to a couple hours. Then take the next hour and just throw random shit on random tracks and see what works and what doesn't. So when we talk about the drums right here, the first thing that I wanted to do is I like that rim shot that I had, but it needed some delay and it needed some reverb and it needed some filtering just to sit into the track. And that adds so much space. So when you do something like that to a snare drum or a rim shot, it can really help take it to the next level. And then I have this hi-hat loop that I just got from Splice. It sounds like this. It's pretty one-dimensional and it doesn't have a lot of movement. So I was like, let me add a little bit of movement with something like Kickstart. And you can see that already helps the track start to breathe. This is where randomness kind of comes in. I wanted it to have a little bit more movement and not just feel like a generic trap hat. So what I did is I added Baby Audio's new plugin Transit. If you haven't tried it, this thing is insane for transitions, ear candy, doing some of these multi-effects things that you can do to spice your beat up. So if you haven't tried it, go try it. We love Baby Audio on this channel. Shout out to them. I just picked a random preset called Hi-Hat Mover and I just blended it in. And to me, that gave these hi-hats something really special. It gives them a little bit of pan, it gives them a little bit of pump, it gives them a little bit of reverb, and now with both of those with that drum, it creates something much more interesting. And it doesn't always have to be an effect that adds delay or reverb. If you don't want a beat that's going to have a bunch of that and you want something a little bit drier, you can still use these steps, just leave out the delay and leave out the reverb, but use something like panning, use something like bit crushing, distortion. We'll talk a little bit more about random effects in just a second. And then here is a perk loop that we had. So let me show you what it sounds like straight up. This is just from our Sounds of Life pack. If you want to grab any of our samples or presets that you can use as starting points, head over to makepopmusic.com. We have samples, presets, we have a course, all kinds of cool stuff. This is what this sample sounds like. It's cool. It's like a little bit crush, snappy, clappy preset. I wanted to just go crazy with it, so I added snappy, literally just picked a random preset that they had called Pitch Quinced Motive, and then I added transit again. And on this one, I used the pitch folder and I did about 50% wet on the transition control. So it sounds like this. And then what I did is I rendered that out. So in Cubase, you can go to edit, you can go to render, and then you can render in place. So that's exactly what I did. I'm gonna go ahead and mute it again. And then we got this little resampled loop that I basically just chopped up. As you can see down here, we have a bunch of little cuts, and I rearranged it to give it a little bit more movement. Then I added some transient shaper to take away a little bit of the sustain. We're gonna filter it a little bit with some Pro Q, and then I'm adding transgate because I felt like it just needed a little bit more staccato. And doing something like that to a loop that already has a lot of stuff baked into it can really just give you something that's intangible. Now, even if you have the same samples, you're not gonna be able to immediately recreate this drum groove that I have. So there's a quick example on how you could spice your drums up with randomness. I'm gonna go ahead and show you some of these synths because there's a lot happening on these. So I have this Rhodes right here that's kind of just the main chords. It felt a little bit dry and a little bit boring, so I added, again, transit with I just flip through random presets till I find one I kind of like, and then I'll adjust the dry wet and just adjust some of these things, again, at random. This is not a methodical process at all. So you can see right there, it's just giving us a little bit of extra sauce. We're gonna do kind of something similar with the organ. So I wanted a little bit of high end in the instrumental, so I just added this organ, but it felt a little bit dry and grating. So we've got another random preset here. Again, didn't really think about it, just flipped through shit until I heard something that I liked. That's one thing that I see so many people preaching is everything needs to be intentional. Everything needs to be methodical. Everything in your insert chain needs to have a specific reason. And I feel like that's fucking boring, honestly. Like, creativity does not need to be a step-by-step process. It's fine if you want to be methodical to get the instrumental to a point where you know that it's going to fit with an artist or not, but past that, go crazy with it. Some of these things won't make a final mix, some of them will, but I'd rather try everything, throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, and then take that and pick from that, rather than just having kind of a stale, generic-ass beat. Here's another example. So this one is just a soft bell that I have. This is just from one of our Vital preset packs. I believe it's from, the Y2K pack that we have that samples and presets. And there's a cool plugin in Cubase called Loop Mash. It comes stock. And essentially what this is it's kind of like a gross beat thing where you can chop something, reverse something, do pitch dives. So all I did was basically created a little MIDI track here that is going to trigger this, and watch how this just kind of transforms a really stale, generic, boring bell. We've got reverses, we've got glitches, we've got stretching, and then I'm taking it to the next level and I'm using another stock plugin in Cubase called Effects Modulator. This is a really cool kind of similar to Snap Heap or like the like Lunchbox from Cable Guys, where you can basically just like drag a bunch of different things into modules and then you have complete LFO control. So for this one, I'm doing something really simple. I'm just doing a pitch or a volume dive. But it adds a little bit of movement, it adds a little bit of excitement, and it just adds a little bit of flair that, again, unless you copy me step by step, you're not going to be able to just immediately recreate that in your instrumental. We do something really, really similar with this lead synth. One of the plugins that I really like to just kind of create randomness is Portal and Thermal by Output. They're basically just these really kind of complicated effects chains, and I'll just flip through presets. So I found one that I like called Sandbox. Here's what it sounds like without it. It's a cool sound. I actually love that sound a lot, but I wanted something that had a little bit more movement. So I found this cool little preset in Portal. Again, totally random, was not methodical. This is methodical. This is just doing filtering. That's something that needed to happen. And then similar to what I did on that last kind of soft bell, I'm doing, again, a little volume automation dive. And if you listen to a lot of hip hop and you listen to like somebody like Travis Scott or Don Toliver, where everything's super atmospheric and you wonder where they get these kind of really insane loops that they use, a lot of the time it's something simple like a piano or Rhodes, just doing a little melody. And then those producers are throwing tons of random shit at it. And then you can get something really, really exciting like this. It doesn't have to be super complicated, but it also, you know, just adds a little bit of something. I'll show you this last little synth. It's just adding a plugin called Multipass from Kilohertz. It's really, really cool. Basically just has like a ton of different stuff happening in all of these presets. I just picked one and it's doing some gating. Then I'm going to add again the prized portal. I'm using something called Rhythm Switch. And again, we're at 100% wet on this, so it's going kind of crazy. We're using Auto Pan just to give us a little bit of extra movement. And then when I use Auto Pan, I like using a little bit of reverb so everything doesn't feel all to one side or the other. It just kind of shifts and gives us this cool little movement. And now when you add all of that together, you get something exciting. Mix that with doing some kind of automation on the synth bus where we have tape stop by Kilohertz, we have kickstart doing a little bit of side chaining, and we have some muting. It gives us this kind of instrumentation arrangement that just breathes a little bit rather than being this super kind of atmospheric 8-bar loop. So again, this one was actually a complete accident. I knew I wanted to mute it here, but right here, before I had programmed that kick and that snare in, I had accidentally muted it in the wrong place. And I really liked it, so I left it, and then I just added that little tape stop wind up at the very, very end. And again, it gives you something that original beat doesn't have. Now, let's do our last little thing that I want to show you, and that's basically resampling. So I took this Rhodes, and I found this cool preset and effects modulator called Gritty Acid. It's super random, it's super aggressive, but what I like to do is take something like that. You could even add multiple instances of that at different timings, so you get something absolutely chaotic. And then what you can do is you can print that in place, and when you print that in place, you get something that sounds like this. But what I like to do is print that and then just use different areas of that and kind of construct my own little loop as a filler or as a riser or as a little call and response moment. And that's something, again, that really only happens when you allow yourself to get really random and creative with sound design. So now we have that resampled little loop that we're using as ear candy. We have some automation on the bus that was kind of accidental and random with muting. We have a lot of different instances of things like transit and portal and multipass and snap heap and a bunch of other kind of random multi-effects units. There's lots that you can do. There's like Effectrix has a glitch plugin. There is like Murder Melodies from Slate. Again, all of these will have presets. I love just going to a multi-effects unit, flipping through presets, printing shit, and then picking out different areas that I want to keep. And then at the end, you'll get something that sounds like this. Which I find infinitely more exciting than something like this. So I guess what I'm saying is allow yourself to have fun in your creative process. Take that, production that you have and go the extra mile. Add some of those random effects. Add some of those random presets. Blend different things that don't normally go together, and you might find happy accidents that end up making it into your actual production. I think when you're in a session with somebody, it helps to always have some kind of mic going, whether that's an iPhone mic or a mic on your computer. I just think The creative process can be so fulfilling, and when you limit yourself to just saying, yeah, I'm going to drag this preset in because it sounds like Tame Impala, and yeah, I'm going to drag this drum in because it sounds like The Weeknd, it can be kind of a stale, it feels more like doing a puzzle than it does creating a song. So maybe do those things to kind of get the basis, and then use that as your palette to really go crazy and really add your flavor and your touch, whether that's doing, glitch effects or filler, little synths here and there, or completely modulating synth like Travis Scott would. Go crazy with it. If you like this video, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us out on the channel a ton. If you want to support us and if you want to check out any of our samples, presets, MIDI packs, start to finish production course, or all of our free content, head over to makepopmusic.com. We have a bunch of really, really cool stuff over there. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you want to see in the near future because we do these videos every single Friday. So again, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys next Friday with much more content. Much love, everyone. Peace.